Hello there. Are you ready for tonight's story? Well, tonight we're going to read Infinity and Me by Kate Hosford. Are you ready?
The night I got my new red shoes, I couldn't wait to wear them to school. I was too excited to sleep, so I went outside and sat on the lawn. When I looked up, I shivered. The sky seemed so huge and cold. How many stars were in the sky? 1,000,000? 1,000,000,000? Maybe the number was as big as infinity. I started to feel very, very small. How could I even think about something as big as infinity? At school the next day, I asked my friend Charlie how he imagines infinity. "That's easy, Uma," he said. "It's a giant number that keeps growing bigger and bigger forever." I thought about trying to write that number down. Even if I lived forever, I would never finish. I went to get ice cream after school with my best friend Samantha. "Sam," I asked her, "when you think about infinity, what do you see?" "I see the infinity symbol," she said. "It looks kind of like an 8 that fell over and took a nap. If I were a racetrack, I could drive round and round it forever." Samantha made me feel a little better. Writing that symbol wouldn't take long at all. I traced a napping 8 in the dirt with my shoe. Before school the next day, I asked Grandma how she imagines infinity. She smiled at me and said, "I like to think about a family. First you have the great-grandparents, and then the grandparents, the parents, the children, the grandchildren, the great-grandchildren. It could go on forever." I couldn't really imagine that many people in one family, but I did realize something. It was hard to talk about infinity without talking about forever. I also realized something else. Not one person had noticed my new red shoes, not even Grandma, who usually notices everything. I looked down to make sure they were still shiny. Then I started to wonder, what would I like to do forever? At first I thought I might like to have recess forever. But if there's no school before recess, and no school after recess, is it really recess anymore? Maybe I'd like to be 8 forever. But I didn't know if Samantha would still want to be my best friend when she was 85 and I was still 8. Maybe I could lick an ice cream cone forever. But what if my tongue started to hurt? Actually, my head was starting to hurt from all these thoughts. When I went to the lunchroom, I asked our cook, Mr. Mancini, how he imagines infinity. He held up a noodle. "How many times do you think you could cut this in half?" he asked. I cut it in half 6 times, but then it got too small and I was afraid I might cut my finger instead of the noodle. "In your mind," Mr. Mancini said, "could you cut that tiny piece of noodle in half forever?" I asked Mrs. Reed, our music teacher, about infinity and wished I hadn't. "Picture music that goes in a circle," she said. "The notes would lead us around and around. The music would be endless." I was starting to think that my questions about infinity might be endless. It was time for me and my red shoes to go home. For dinner, Grandma made my favorite meal, butter chicken and rice. As she mixed the spices, she looked at me and said, "Uma, I meant to tell you this morning, those are the most beautiful shoes I have ever seen." I didn't hear the rest of what Grandma said. I was too busy smiling. Right then I knew my love for her was as big as infinity. That night I asked her if she would like to look up at the stars with me. Snuggled up next to Grandma, the sky didn't seem so huge and cold anymore. Now it was more like a sparkly blanket covering us both.
I don't know if you ever heard of infinity, before this story or not. Infinity just means never ending, just goes on forever. It's bigger than anything we can ever imagine. And sometimes when we try to imagine it, we get beyond ourselves. We try to go further than we're even capable of thinking. In this life that God created us to be in, we're not yet in infinity. That comes in what we call life in the resurrection, the life made possible by Jesus. In this life, we are supposed to pay more attention to the things around us. Did you notice how the little girl felt when her grandmother noticed her shoes and told her that her shoes were beautiful? That's called a compliment. And suddenly the little girl wasn't scared anymore. She wasn't confused anymore. She had been reassured. She knew it was a way of her grandmother saying that she loved her. And that's what we're supposed to do. The true infinity is God. God is always, God is forever. And that means God is always there to love us, and that God will love us forever. And because of Jesus, nothing can separate us from the love of God. Nothing is the opposite of infinity. And so Jesus wants us to learn how to love, how to tell people that their shoes are beautiful, how to help feed people, how to help take care of people and protect them, how to get justice for others and fairness for others. That's the way we love each other, the way God always loves us. It helps us practice love in this, what we call finite world, so that we can be better ready to meet God in God's infinite love and wisdom. And you know why Jesus wants us to get ready to be able to meet God in God's infinite love? Because Jesus loves us this much. Jesus loves us infinitely. So God bless you. God bless you that you remember always that you are the beloved child He created you to be. Good night.